I have this list of shows that I've been trying to get around to watching for a long time now. It's one that has continually gotten longer and longer for about as long as I've been doing reviews, to the point where now I'm about to talk about a show that aired in 2010 and has since gone on ahead and aired another 2 seasons while I was putzing about not watching it. Which is surprising because it belongs to the slice of life genre, one of my favorite genres because I use anime as a form of escapism, so watching uplifting and lighthearted shows does wonders for my frequent anxiety attacks. Not that I actually know if I suffer from anxiety, because I would much prefer to not know for sure and stay home rather than risk going outside in order to talk to somebody who actually knows about these sorts of things. Which makes it even better because today we're talking about a show that is also filled to the brim with a cast of characters who should all probably receive professional help. But hey, it's anime, nobody gets hurt. Well, seriously, anyways, and it all works out in the end, so it's all fine, right? Right? Ladies, gentlemen, and others, my name is Arcada, and welcome to Glass Reflection. Today, working, or Wagnaria, whichever you prefer to call it. Let's jam. In the hot seat is our main character, Takanashi Sota, a perfectly average everyman with a particular fetish for absolutely cute things. He gets wrangled into working at the restaurant Wagnaria by one of its servers, Kaneshima Poplar, who despite being older than him looks like an elementary schooler, and as such qualifies to be adored by Sota's cute complex. In traditional slice of life style, there is no main plot, and the show mostly revolves around the restaurant and its staff, a staff of increasingly bizarre and unconventional personalities. You have the previously mentioned Sota and Poplar, and then there's the manager, an extremely lax former gang leader with mysterious friends who take care of loud and unappreciative customers. You have a head waitress who acts like the nicest person you will ever meet, but carries around a katana with her at all times, no exceptions. And then there are the 2 cooks, the menacingly looking but Care Bear acting Jun, and the much more cheerful but absolutely diabolical Soma. And finally, there's the character of Inami, who has a phobia of men, with an instinctive reaction to punch any man within range without thinking about it, much to the pain of our protagonist, Sota. There are several reasons to like the show, and also a few to dislike the show. Most of Working's comedy is heavily reliant on slapstick, and also the rather absurd personalities of the restaurant staff, most of the time portrayed as deadpan as possible for maximum effect. A negative in my mind would be the amount of times the show likes to rely just a bit too heavy on the same comedic trope continually. There are only so many times that Inami can uncontrollably punch someone before it just stops being funny, especially when most of the series is dedicated to her attempting to overcome her phobia. Random acts of violence have been around in anime for a long time, especially towards male leads, which makes this even worse. Like when City Hunter does it, not only does the idiot deserve it, but the way that his partner can summon 100-ton hammers out of thin air has always been a hilarious spectacle. In Working, though, it was just like, dude, how do you not watch yourself while turning corners in this place? How do you always take the punch straight on in the face and haven't gotten good at dodging by now? There's an off comment made in an episode that Sota is perhaps a masochist and actually enjoys this, and while they never actually continue with that line of thought, it honestly would not surprise me if it was actually true. Beyond that, though, there are quite a few reasons as to why Working is a good example of variety in the slice of life genre, where shows all too often like to continually have the same character archetypes and settings repeated ad nauseum. The lack of a high school setting, for example, was much appreciated. Some of the characters may be in high school and are occasionally shown in uniform, but not actually showing us them in their natural habitat as anime characters was a nice change of pace. Also, other little nods to the setting were nice as well, like a Hot Springs episode, where they all go to a hot spring, but not actually show us the spring itself or our characters in it. Like, not sure if you can still call it a Hot Springs episode because of that, but whatever. Largely, your enjoyment of the series will depend on how much you like the slice of life genre as a whole, and if this humor is to your cup of tea. For me, though, I appreciated a lot of the gags, but it wasn't the kind of show that had me rolling with laughter at any given time. More like I would watch a comedy scene, and then at the end of it, I would inwardly chuckle. Less of a LOL, more of a SS. But that's me. I got far more enjoyment on seeing these characters evolve to the small extent that they did, far more than the comedy that the show put on display. While several background characters never got much farther than simple gag status, most of our mains ended up dealing with quite a few things that challenged them as characters. For the rest, we actually started to get halfway decent explanations as to why they acted the way they did, even if some of them were just as absurd and unrealistic as the characters' actual personalities. I am disappointed, though, that we didn't get as much of the character Taneshima as I thought we were going to. She's displayed so predominantly on the promotional art for the series and the DVD case as well that she might as well be the mascot for the series, yet quite quickly it becomes apparent that she loses the mantle of main girl status to Inami, which is fine, though I think I would have preferred the small cute character be main girl rather than the constantly punching every man in sight girl. Quickly going back to the background characters though, before we move on, is that if I wanted one thing out of this series, and this might be something that the later seasons touch on, is more information and just stories on the things we haven't seen yet. Like, it's confirmed that the cast of characters we see during the show are the evening shift, as they are for the most time all part-time workers. Who works in this crazy restaurant during the day? What are they like? There's this one server that's no better than a background character until the final episode of all things, where we find out her name. And why don't we get to see more of her? She's the dark-haired Megane character. I would have loved to know what her deal was far sooner than we were told, and more detailed than what we got. But hey, that's what the other seasons are for, right? Now, getting into the animation, occasionally I find a person that usually, in a defeatist and depressing tone, wonders aloud why there are so many slice of life shows lately. So many slice of life shows! Personally, my explanation is that you don't need spectacular animation for them. In fact, most of the time, perfectly average animation is exactly what a slice of life show needs. They are also easier to animate due to the reliance on still character faces and only lip flaps for movement a lot of the time. This makes me wonder why A1 Pictures were the ones that handled this particular series, as they've usually tried, for the most part, to have animation that is generally above average in a lot of their shows. It's one of the things I like about them, even if I occasionally dislike some of the stories that they produce. That said, for the most part, the animation is smooth, and there was this one gorgeous cut in the final episode that makes up for a lot. Now, sound-wise, there's not much to talk about. Most of the music is generic and forgettable, though the opening song is addictively poppy, and it's attached to animation that reminds me a lot of the opening for Azumanga Daioh. In a good way, too, because NIS picked this license up in North America, though there is no English dub for me to talk about, but the Japanese one was amazingly cast and performed. Also, I wouldn't want to be the person to attempt to replicate the same kind of comedic timing in English, so I wouldn't wish that upon anyone else either, so having no dub is perfectly fine. Ultimately, you are going to watch this show for two things, the two things that it is really good at. One is character relationships. They all intermingle in quite fascinating ways considering all of their varying personalities, and the reason I think it works so well is because of number two, the show's optimism and lightheartedness. Despite several characters coming from what could be considered depressing backgrounds, they all arrive to work with smiles on their faces, and the depressing parts of their lives never drag down the show at all. All that positivity will keep you coming back even if the humor fails to hook you into the series. And if the humor doesn't fail to hook you, well then, you will enjoy this show immensely. As such, I lovingly present working with the recommendation to stream it rather than buy. It's a series that delivers on exactly what you expect it to, and in some cases does it in ways that you don't expect it to. The reason why I give it a stream and not a buy is mostly because of the humor. Now, humor is subjective, and for this show, it just didn't personally grab me, as it probably will others. And the over-reliance on Inami's quirk is one of my biggest sticking points with the show. Thankfully, though, if you like the series more than I did, while it is licensed by NIS America, it is not extremely overpriced like some of their other box sets. Instead, it is much more reasonably priced at $40 American. Very nice. Beyond that, though, the series is also available for streaming over on Crunchyroll. Link in the description, crunchyroll.com/glassreflection for a free trial of Crunchyroll's premium services and all the anime awesomeness that it contains. Full disclosure, you don't actually need premium in order to watch working. Well, unless you live in Canada. The review copy for this video was lovingly provided by the wonderful folks over at RightStuffAnime.com, a fine purveyor of anime DVDs, Blu-rays, and other such merchandise for you to enjoy. You can pick up working from them, among many others, because if it is in print, they have it. For alternate anime recommendations, and this is easy, first goes to Hidamari's Sketch, a much more standard slice of life, but one that doesn't rely heavily on slapstick for its comedy. The trade-off with it, though, is that it's got a more traditional high school setting, and its animation and designs are even more simplistic than this one is. Second recommendation, going along the lines of a comedy series, about a restaurant would be Squid Girl. All the characters in it have fascinating quirks, it has the restaurant, as mentioned, and it is hilarious to boot, except that one mini episode that is just so sad, man. Like, it makes me tear up just thinking about it. Okay, so between those two, you should hopefully find something to your liking. And that's it for me. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, follow me on Twitter if you feel so inclined, and hey, if you like what I do here and feel like helping out, go and check out my Patreon page, and if you feel it within your heart, also consider donating. Very special thanks to Lulika Adachi, Grace Anderson, Halo Millennium, Joshua Garcia, Nikolai Gray, Victor Ekmark, Calhoun Boy, and Mark Roby Show for donating already. You guys are all especially awesome. And until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, stay frosty.